This episode brought to you by Mint Mobile. Inflation is everywhere. Seriously, make it stop. Thankfully, Mint Mobile is giving you a much-needed break on your wireless bill. Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. Order today at mintmobile.com/TFS. Thank you, Mint Mobile. Hello, and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey, everybody, I'm Andrew Ivamy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, we are talking about The Wheel of Time.
Wheel of Time. Will I say it like that once or every time? We're going to find out as the episode goes.
You got to pace yourself.
You got to pace yourself.
You got to pace yourself.
But you also have to seed in a little mystery.
Yeah.
About the way I'm going to say Wheel of Time.
I understand. You've got to enjoy it, but savor it. But like you can't just go full out sprint on the Wheel of Time pronunciation every single time. You know.
Well, like how long can I run in the wheel?
We'll find out.
We will find out.
So we're talking about The Wheel of Time today on the podcast. We are talking about the new season, season 2, and we will be talking about up to and including episode 5.
Yes, so up to the most recent episode when this episode comes out.
Yes.
Episode 5.
So season 2 up to episode 5, The Wheel of Time is what we're talking about this week. We did cover season 1 on the podcast as well. So if you're catching up on Wheel of Time, dip back, listen to that episode if you haven't already.
If you're one of those Wheel of Time heads, new or old.
The Wheel of Time completionists, and you really need to get in there, then be sure to do that. But this is only recently been airing. We're covering up to episode 5 because that is what has aired this past week. Since it is a new TV show, anytime that we cover a new property on the podcast, we always give a spoiler-free review. So in case you're on the fence about seeing it, not sure if it's worth your time, or you just want a taste of the episode while you catch up, we're going to give you a little spoiler-free review. And then once you hear the theme music, that is going to be when we enter the spoiler-filled section. So to start with a simple spoiler-free review, let's start with the usual question. Diana, did you like it?
I do really like Wheel of Time. I think I like Wheel of Time more than its goodness. That's not how this sentence should go. I like it better than it is, probably. And I don't even really know why. I just really feel very relaxed and nice when I watch Wheel of Time, even though it is one of those like complicated fantasy shows. But I do feel like they like pace out all the information really well, and like I like all the characters. I wish they were together more. I hate how separated they are. That's probably one of my biggest complaints. And I'll have like one plot complaint of a thing they haven't like kind of explained well. But overall, I like all the characters. I like the way the plot comes out. I like the pacing. I think the fights look good. The costumes are incredible. It's wildly expensive looking. Each director does something fun every episode, something a little bit memorable each time. There's just like, I like watching Wheel of Time. I don't know if it's even like great, but I know that I like it. And I don't even have one specific thing. Just every character comes on. I'm like, I like this character and I like this character. That person's evil, but I still like them for evil reasons. And there's dogs. Maybe it's a perfect show. We'll find out as we discuss. I've got a couple little complaints, but yeah, I recall I liked season 1 quite a bit, and I like season 2 quite a bit. I'm definitely going to keep watching. Andrew, do you like Wheel of Time?
I love where your head's at, and I'm pretty much very similar to you along this vein where I agree with you. It's better than the sum of its parts. There is something
rare reversal.
Yeah, there's something sticky about this that just, it feels good and it feels right, even though it hits a few pitfalls and it has a few little slips and blunders here and there. It's good and pleasurable to watch. I think that this is a lot of great performances in a show that's just very well executed. It feels like theater. Everything feels like a full and rich scene. The pacing is just right. Like, it never feels too slow. It never feels too fast. Even it's not edited frenetically. It is very like calm and methodical, and just actors act. And even when it is, falling into like fantasy tropes of like the very special prophecy boy rides the horse through the lightning dream.
You gotta have the special prophecy boy.
Even when it gets up its own ass with fantasy tropes, it is still a scene where I'm like, these actors get to work and get to play, and it's not overly edited, which I think that like its visual style is actually something that is a little bit rarer for television or for episodic storytelling right now. So I think visually it's really interesting. It's got really great performances. I'm engaged, and I would say that like my how much I like it is even being held back a little bit because it is doing a few of the fantasy things that are very much not for me, just not for Andrews. I'm not going to say they're bad, but it's just like a couple of things that like are tropes that I don't enjoy, and I know some people get a huge kick out of it. So there's some things about this that just aren't for me, and I still really like it. So I feel like if someone was watching this and they're into the tropes that they're doing, that this has got to be through the goddamn roof good, because I'm still having a very good time, and I recognize that a lot of this are tropes that aren't for me.
I love hearing this. Okay, well, then I'm going to go full in on I really like Wheel of Time. This is great. I wasn't sure if I had a skewed view. I was willing to walk the line of like, am I wrong? Is this not as good as I think it is? But yeah, I completely agree on all these points. The pacing is so nice. Actors get to act. I love what you said about not frenetic, like, direction and editing. Like, you do just get to kind of watch this show. And maybe the thing that's great about it is that it's so focused on like, it's a fantasy show that's mostly about magic, whereas I think like so many fantasy shows, like there's not that many fantasy shows these days, but like get really caught up in magic and politics. Like The Witcher's completely unwatchable these days. After season 1, I think it was very bad. I didn't really enjoy Rings of Power. It had too much going on and it wasn't connected. So this show being like all the storylines are connected, you know all the characters, it's easy to watch. It's just about the magic for the most part. It's just like a nice like, let's watch Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
I just feel like watching Wheel of Time.
Just feel like watching it.
I just feel like watching it.
Just feel
Love
like
that.
watching it. And can it be spoiled?
Yeah, there's always stuff. Not too much yet. Maybe like 2 things so far.
Yeah, I'm
One of them was not a surprise.
Yes, I agree with you. A couple of soft spoilers where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we're going on an adventure of like who is where and why are they behaving the way they're behaving. Not I think like not everything relies on the surprise of these twists, but there's a few things along the way where it's like, oh, okay, it can be spoiled a little bit.
Yeah, it's not anything that you're like, oh, I heard what happened and now it's not enjoyable. It's not like a Red Wedding Game of Thrones situation. It's like, no, it's just a very well done show.
Yeah,
you'll enjoy all of it the whole time.
You'll watch it and you'll be like, oh, wow, this really great actors acting, and that's just kind of
that.
what you're going to enjoy in here. Yeah. So mild spoil, and I think we both really like it.
That's great for us.
Well, let's get into the spoiler-filled section. Let's talk more about the Wheel of Time. Well, we have been really enjoying Wheel of Time. I'm glad that you like it, and I'm sorry you felt the need to like to prepare yourself, to limit yourself.
I mean, I just know myself.
Okay.
And I know that sometimes I like things that aren't as good as my enjoyment of them are. And that's
Okay.
valid. And I'm not saying I shouldn't like those things. But as someone trying to give like reviews and recommendations to listeners, I don't want to be like, it's the greatest thing ever just because there's a cute boy or something. Like I'm aware
Right.
of what I'm like.
Well, and also I don't want to be swaying you. I don't want to be holding back your true emotions and you thinking like, well, if Andrew figures out that it's academically bad, I don't want to be caught enjoying it on the podcast. I want you to enjoy what you enjoy.
I'm enjoying.
Okay.
But thank you for wanting to hear my truest, deepest thoughts. That's
Yeah.
what podcasting's all about.
I want to hear the truest,
secrets.
deepest thoughts. You know, we can dissect these things academically, but you still, you feel how you feel. And this show just feels good, I think. It feels good. It looks good. Just on a scene-by-scene basis, I'm just really enjoying watching these performances.
It's performances mixed with incredible like set dressing and costumes. Hardly a lick of CG. Like all practical, all real locations. Like, yeah, every single scene is wildly engaging for the amount of work that's gone into it from the production and from the actors and from the writing. It's all perfectly coming together to be a show that you just like want to watch and feels very confident. Like, I think this is going to be the biggest compliment I can give this show, which is in like the first 2 or 3 episodes, Moraine is intolerable, Rosamund Pike's character.
Yeah.
She is such a bitch. But while you're watching it, you're like, this is purposeful. They don't think they're writing Moraine as likable. Like, you can tell that they're like, oh no, she's acting like this and you're going to hate her for a few episodes and we're going somewhere. And as a viewer, you can feel that. You're not just like, oh man, they fucked up Moraine's character and now I don't like her. You're like, no, they're going somewhere with this. I think that's the highest praise I can give a show of like, I trust you that you're going somewhere with this and you've done this purposefully.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's evoking a big reaction. Like, there are times where I straight up want to be yelling at the screen.
Yeah. Like, tell Lon what's happening. He deserves better.
It is a performance that feels like akin to the level of Cersei on Game of Thrones, where it is that level of like, I hate you. I'm so angry. I am so mad at you. You're really giving a phenomenal performance to the point where I do feel like people watching the show will probably be mad at you as an actor and a human being because you're exactly nailing the level of anger that they want to be evoking from the audience in this moment. So I think Rosamund Pike is doing a phenomenal job of evoking exactly what the show intends to evoke, which is frustration and anger and just this like lashing out to be like, don't you dare say that to Arlan. But it's beautiful how she accomplishes that.
Yeah, so like everyone's doing a great job. I think but that's kind of like the character that you're like, you get mad, but you're like, I'm supposed to. This is how I'm supposed to be feeling. I'm supposed to be on Lon's side. I'm supposed to be like, come on, Moraine.
Now, here's what I really like about the look and feel of each scene. And this is something that, like, for regular listeners of this podcast, you'll find that there's often, like, repeated talking points. There are things that typically we like and we'll bring up that we like. Things that we typically dislike and we will frequently bring up that we dislike. This is something, I don't know if I've ever said it on this podcast before. This show's blocking is really good. Is really fucking good. I know this might be the most mundane pedestrian / inside baseball compliment to give. But what I love and what I think sincerely gives life to a lot of these scenes is it's shot in a wide shot. And it will be like, let's say it is like a scene with Moraine and Rand.
Okay.
And like there was one in the recent episode. And it's Moraine and Rand, and they're in a room, and it's in the wide shot. And they're thoughtful and they're thinking. And Moraine walks over to the fireplace and Rand walks closer to the camera and the focus shifts to the foreground. And then Rand walks over to the bed and sits down while Moraine walks into the frame of the bed behind him. And everything is framed, but everything's constantly moving. But all of these actors are having time to like stop and think and give a performance. And when it cuts to a close-up, there's a fucking reason for the close-up. When it cuts to a close-up, it is, here is a moment when Moraine's heart is breaking inside over knowing what she has to do and being unable to do it. And here is a close-up of Rosamund Pike acting her goddamn ass off for 3 reserved seconds. Then we're going to pull the camera back. And now, once again, it's 2 actors on a stage doing a play. And the confidence of this show to be like, it is a play. Then we push in for a moment when it's earned, as opposed to a lot of television, which is just close up, close up, close up, move to another scene, back to that scene, close up, close up, close up. And part of that is because that's how a lot of television looks, and also because that's quicker and cheaper to film, to be like, let's just set a camera on a tripod, close up of an actor, say all of your lines one by one. Line.
Yeah. Over the shoulder, over the shoulder, over the shoulder.
But to get 2 actors on the same page and to know they're blocking and to do a stage play for each scene is a lot more work with a lot more detail, and this show does it, and it looks fucking phenomenal.
Andrew, I'm with you. The blocking's great. No,
It's got good blocking.
It's got good blocking. You've completely sold me. I mean, it kind of, when you first said that, I'm like, how much of a compliment can this be if you noticed the blocking? Like a thing I've never once considered, unless I'm like, hey, I can't see a person.
Right.
But you're absolutely right that like, God, it's so good when things are shot in wides, like in like long takes, not just like wide for a second to give you a sense of scale. Like a long wide does make a thing feel like a play. Like in a very different matter, we've talked about this during like Jackie Chan movies. Like you can see the entire choreography in one wide shot. It's not inserts. And it kind of feels the same for just regular acting as well. Like people are doing performances. They're not just saying one line at a time. They like worked out the whole scene. They like went through the script and they went through the beats and they're like, this is what this character's feeling. This is what this character is trying to accomplish. This is acting.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're absolutely right about how like it's way longer. It's very rare. I feel like normally when you see two people in frame together these days, it's almost always like a romantic tension scene because you need to feel chemistry between two characters like that.
Oh yeah, sure.
But this show will just be like, no, these are just friends. There's definitely nothing between Rand and Rosamund Pike. They're gross. I don't know. I just like don't see
Gross
anything.
might be harsh.
No, I mean like
for two very attractive Hollywood
they
actors.
are very attractive. I guess just like their character wise.
Yeah.
I'm like, I would never ship these two. Oh my God. I'll ship a lot of people together. Not Rand and Marie.
I understand your intention, and just gross was a word where I'm like, these two wildly attractive people are not gross.
They are wildly attractive. Their personalities don't go together as characters. What was I complimenting? The acting? I think I was I got sidetracked.
The wide shot.
The wide shot. But yeah, they let every character and each character interaction be important. It's not just like romantic things that are important. It's like, here's a scene between Moraine and her sister, and Moraine's gonna like break down a little bit, and that's when you get the close-up that you talked about, where you just see that little bit of emotion and tears come out and uncertainty from Moraine for the first time. And they do this with all the characters, like Lon and the other warders. You get Egwene and Nynaeve, get them as well. Like it's, yeah, everyone's in shot and important, and it's never like, all right, we can let this person go for the day. It's all inserts from the other side. It's like every actor has to be on set every day to like do the whole scene.
And the things that are powerful and meaningful are not done for novelty. Because when we talk about like it's a wide shot, which takes way more attention and effort to get the blocking and the staging, and it's like a play. But then they'll go in for the close up when it matches the writing, when it has meaning. They will break up that wide shot and go in for a close-up of performance. Whereas I feel like a lot of the times when we see those wide shots now, it's a novelty of a show having a competition, that pissing contest of a show or a movie to be like, it's 15 minutes. And yes, there's 8 really sneaky edits in there. But we did a 15-minute wide shot, one-cut stage play with this complicated blocking. And it's like, did you do that because that was the best thing for the subject matter? Did you do that because it elevates what this art is? Or did you do that for the novelty of having accomplished that?
To have a behind-the-scenes featurette later about how we accomplished a 15-minute one-shot, or did it add to the story?
Whereas this does everything story first. Everything is story first. It's never for the novelty, and it's this razor line of just the underappreciated, the exact amount of everything that is needed, and nothing that hangs around for show.
Yeah, it's really good. Chef's kiss. I mean, on that point, I think actually though I will come to like my first and biggest negative, which is weird because everything works in conjunction with the story, as we said, and yet I would say these bad guys have appeared out of absolutely nowhere. These weirdo army of bad guys who have face masks and long nails. I am baffled by this. I should point out I have not read these books, so I'm just coming in straight as like just TV show stuff. And they're so good about introducing other stuff, even when it's complicated. Like they've introduced very like subtly, like the people with red hair are prejudiced against. That's why Rand's been cutting his hair. Other like the Aes Sedai can't lie and things like that.
Sure,
like, they
other
bring
things
it up,
they've seeded in.
They bring
throughout.
it up. They seed it in. I have no idea who these new bad guys are or what's happening with them, and not in a way that feels purposeful.
Not in a way that feels like, it doesn't feel like a scary ticking clock. It just feels like Who are you? All your costumes are great, and we can talk.
Oh my God. We'll talk about that.
We'll talk more about that in a minute.
Incredible.
So let's push that to the other side of the table. We'll get to you in a moment.
Little dessert for after the meal about who
we're
you
talking
are.
about a negative thing right now, which is I fully agree with this as well. And I feel like this is a fantasy kind of a sci-fi, just a general fiction trope of the like we defeated the bad guy, but was the bad guy the top bad guy or the bad guy underneath a different bad guy? And you can do that and get away with that in certain pieces. But if you start doing that same move too many times repeatedly, like the whole first season is like, this guy is the, what did they call him?
The Forsaken?
The
bad guys?
The Dark One. They call him the Dark One.
Yes, they do.
So season 1, they're like, this guy's the Dark One. And then this season starts with like, he wasn't the Dark One. He's actually just a Forsaken. He's like he's a lieutenant to the Dark One. And look at this other person. They're also not the Dark One. They're a little bit above him actually, but then also above them is the Dark One. And we do have someone else who is above that, but like they're not the dark. So we're gonna have multiple layers. And it's like, no, we built up one person. If you peel it back, it has to be one thing that you laser focus in on. The more you peel it back, it's this idea that like it makes everyone up the ladder seem scarier. And I'm like, actually, it has the opposite effect of it makes everyone below on the ladder just kind of look like pieces of shit.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of when I used to watch Dragon Ball and every season was the new most powerful guy they've ever fought. And I'm like, where the fuck was this guy last season when you fought the most powerful guy ever? So Frieza's just a piece of shit who can get destroyed in a second, and Frieza was just someone they could kill very easily when you introduced the new guy. And I was like, that's not scary then. And also, you kind of ruined previous seasons for me now.
Right.
Like, if I were to rewatch Dragon Ball, I'd be like, this guy's nothing. Wait till you meet third level boss in 3 seasons.
And there can be a time and place for that. And I think that there could be an argument that anime is kind of the time and place for that level of playful characterism. Whereas
playful characterism is lovely.
Whereas like this is trying to be a little bit more politically severe to be like, look at them, here they come, dum, 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 dum. It's like, well, no, I feel like everyone's just kind of, I feel like all the bad guys just kind of fucking suck. I'm not worried about any of them. They feel disorganized and shitty.
I feel like that's actually part of the appeal of them from a couple things I read on Tumblr. Because there's a couple Tumblr posts I read from people that were like, I love when the Forsaken are petty with each other. So I think it's actually like purposeful from the books is the impression I've gotten that they actually kind of are disorganized.
The pettiness I can get behind of the idea that like, you know, demons,
I want to be the number one demon.
Demons and devils are always distrustworthy. Starscream wants to actually run the Decepticons. Like, it's a classic trope that always works of infighting among bad guys. But it doesn't feel like infighting. It feels like structural and it feels like structural failures. It feels like just a like, oh, hey, we fought the Dark One. Are you the Dark One? No, actually, I'm just a Forsaken. Okay, did I hurt you? No, I think you hit a door or something. And it's like, well, what do you mean you unlocked a door? It's like, we don't really know what that means.
No. And that can work when you like introduce them as lower levels. Like, I am going to compliment a show I love, which is Supernatural. Hear me out. On Supernatural, you know that you're trying to get Lucifer out, and every demon you meet before that works for Lucifer.
Sure.
But this show has not been clear about like which one's Lucifer. Is Lucifer still trapped? Who are like minor demons? Who are lesser demons? Who are higher demons? It's really been like they don't know. And also they're not explaining why like every single scene seems to be just them being like, this is why I let the good guys live this time. And that's very unappealing. She's like, one of them, Lanier, is like, why'd you let Moraine live? And he's like, I liked seeing her desperate. And then she's like, why'd you let the wolf guy live? And he's like, wolves are cool.
He'll be more wolf than person soon. It's like, that's not an answer to that question at all.
You know these people are trying to stop you, and you have not killed a single one of them for any particular reason. A few of them I get, you probably want to turn Rand onto your side. He's wildly powerful. But there's no reason not to have killed Moraine and Perrin and than a bunch of these other people who are trying to stop you.
Which is a shame because like the guy playing the Forsaken / last season's Dark One is giving a phenomenal
Oh
performance.
my God, he's so good. The scene with him and the girl who can see the future that was like filmed kind of weird and jump scary was awesome.
Awesome. This dude rips ass. He's fucking rules.
He's great.
His motivation makes no sense because the show's doing a very sloppy job of writing the villains, but this dude owns this character.
Yeah.
He owns this character.
He is doing some great stuff with a like very unclearly motivated guy, but he's just wildly unsettling on purpose, but also charming about it.
Yeah.
And being charming and unsettling is not two things that go together, but he is making it happen.
Yes. Yeah. I fully agree with that. He just absolutely rules. But loosely motivated villains is definitely one of my one of my negatives for this.
And like this army that he has showed up so suddenly, and they're so overly dramatic that I assumed like literally all of them had magic and they'd been conjured by him. So then like an episode later when they're like, oh no, they're just regular people who fucking love face masks. I was like, oh these are regular humans?
Yeah.
I was not given that impression.
It seemed like a dozen of you took over a full town, and you're all like, you got a few magic users.
Yeah.
You got a few
the
magic
girls with the things in their lips. are magic
the
users.
pacifier / ball gag or whatever that they have going on.
Nice. But yeah, the girl with the nails doesn't even have magic.
No.
She's just really dramatic.
So it's like, what are we doing here? A couple of you can attack dreams and are like wildly powerful, and then there's some people who are just kind of sloppily around.
Yeah, so I'm hoping this comes together a little better.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Villain-wise.
And then I will say the couple of other like quick negatives where like just tropes that Andrew never enjoys. I never enjoy a prophecy, and we ragged on this in season 1 where it's like there's one really special boy. I'm like, I would much rather just a world where there's a problem, and then like, can we stop problem? And that's it. I don't need the prophecy.
If you have a problem, he'll solve it.
I would love to see characters solve a problem that is occurring, and also just like telling us a fight is going to happen versus showing us that a fight is that we're building to a fight. So just like the fantasy thing of like aside from like the special boy prophecy to be like there's a prophecy that there'll be one big fight, and it's like, okay, show me the villains amassing an army. Show me the heroes seeing an army over the horizon. Show me any information transferred back and forth that shows this to be an actual viable threat or inevitability. I hate the like, there's a prophecy that people will fight someday. I'm like, no.
That happens.
Yeah. Yeah, like you can't, any story, I'm like, I don't want you to start your story to be like, we have a promise of conflict. No, conflict is story. Show me conflict. So that's a thing that I'm not into.
I will half agree with this. I agree about the conflict prophecy because also would you have a big war if not for the prophecy? I always hate that kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
And also wars just happen all the time. Like literally in the real world, in medieval times, in fantasy worlds, there's always a fucking war going on. I don't need a prophecy to know that.
Yeah.
I will say the one thing I do like about the Wheel of Time prophecy, specifically about the dragon, is I don't believe the prophecy even says what the dragon will do. The prophecy does just say the dragon will be reborn on this date, and this is going to be his birthday. And because they actually are reincarnated, it's kind of just like a literal fact. This isn't one you can stop. It was like,
right.
He's going to be reborn on the 12th of August. And it's like, okay, that's actually just helpful information. Mm-hmm. This isn't like a vague, the battle will do. So he's not really even prophesied, as far as I can tell, to do anything specific. They're just like, he's going to be born this day.
I think they're like, the prophecy of him is the one who can end the war one way or another. But it's like, then it's a prophecy on a prophecy. You got a hat on a hat.
Because he ended it last time. And I'm like, come on, just let this man live.
Yeah, just kind of, you got to tell me or show me some of this stuff,
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So that, and then the other classic fantasy trope of we broke up the group. Just have the group together. I don't care.
I am really annoyed by this because the thing that made season 1 work, and it's the thing that actually made Game of Thrones work for so long, was that we meet these people together the way that we meet the Stark children together in Game of Thrones. And then they do get separated slowly throughout the, but at the end of the season, they were back together again. They all go on the ways, except for Matt, because he's a little shit. They all go to the final battle together. And you're like, oh, they're friends, and I feel the friendship, and we're in this together, and we're all going to fight evil side by side. But now we're 5 episodes in, and they just got broken up more than ever, because now Egwene and Nynaeve are separated.
Yeah.
Who were the only two that were together. And I was like, oh, at least these two are together.
And Moraine and Lan are separated now as well.
I guess Moraine found Rand.
I
so
guess.
like they're back together. But yeah, it's way too much separation. And I know at the end, and I think there's only 3 episodes left. So I'm not sure they'll even like get people back together by the end of this season. I don't really feel like it'll happen. And I really like... It really helps that they were together last season, and you just really need to see more of the interaction of these characters again, especially when you have quick travel built in. It's a little bit more forgivable when there's no built-in quick travel, but you've got these portals. Yeah. So I'm going to need some people to meet up that know each other pretty soon.
Yep. Absolutely. And I think it's also just especially tragic for like, it's a trope I don't enjoy in fantasy novels. It's something I also really don't enjoy in television and film, because there is something so kind of like sincerely bums me out and makes me a little sad, even though there's no press for this show because of the WGA and SAG strike. But like when I see ensemble casts doing press together who have no chemistry because they never had scenes together, and it's something we've seen like so many times with shows where it's like, it's the 5 main cast members of this show. And it's like they met that week because they've had no scenes together. They've never worked together. They know nothing about one another. And it's like, I feel like the 5 leads of a show should, after 2 years of working together, be wildly intimate with one another's lives and work styles, you know?
Yeah, and in season 1, they would have hung out a lot, but season 1 was filmed in like 2018 because it got pushed back because of the pandemic, so it was like forever ago. So they don't remember what each other's like, and they don't have any scenes together. Like, they're supposed to all be best friends, and like, yeah, if there was press, they'd be like, I don't have your number. What, were you married? I don't even know.
Right.
Like in real life. Do you have a husband?
Yes. Yeah.
If you make them play those little games where they answer questions about each other.
Newlywed Game?
Absolute failures.
Complete failure.
Complete failure you would have. Yeah. It's weird to do. In a book, it's especially weird because you don't need to get cast schedules to line up.
Sure. Yeah. You don't need to give an actor a week off.
I will throw a book across the room when a party gets like broken up for a long time. Not just for a scene or two, obviously, that's fine. But when they get broken up for a long time, I'm like, there's no reason.
Just put them together.
You made these people up. They don't exist. There's no actors that you got to get here at 6 a.m. to start shooting. Yeah. So annoying.
No one needs time off because they're also filming a movie. It's like, just have them there.
And this is also like Amazon's like biggest budget thing. They're all there. None of these people got time off. They're all in every episode anyway. They might as well be in the same scenes.
Yes.
I think this was the first episode that didn't have everyone because Matt and Lon weren't in this episode. But every other episode had all the main characters.
Yeah. Now, the argument that I will make in its defense, to play devil advocate to the point that I started.
Characters. Disagree.
Is that
preemptive disagree?
Oh, on the best friend tip, I mean, of the like, how are they best friends when they've had they spent 6 months together once and they have no time together. They went on like one journey or whatever together, and it's like, I guess in a fantasy setting when the like average lifespan of a human being is 30, someone who you did hang out with for a year once is your best friend, even when you haven't seen them in 3, I suppose.
I've spent a good chunk of my life with this person, is what you can say. Unless you're an Aes Sedai who's like 300 years old.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So or in other fantasy stuff when you're on some elvish bullshit. But, when the average human lifespan is 30, it's like, yeah, I guess you are just kind of like, that's my best friend until I die now, even if I don't see them for 10 years.
I mean, well, in this case, 5 of these characters are from the same village. Like, they grew up together. But so, like, even more so why I want them reunited. It's like, that's not even like an on paper, like, I think these guys work. It's like, no, they're all literally best friends. Except for maybe Nynaeve. She was kind of an outsider.
Yeah, okay.
But because she was a little bit older than the other 4. But yeah, so I was just, I totally agree. Get everyone back together. Get the band back together.
Gotta get the band back
together. Montage.
Yeah, real quick montage is what I'm going to say. Well, let's take a quick break in the podcast to thank our other sponsor of today's episode. We want to thank our friends over at tpublic.com.
At tpublic.com, you're going to find your next favorite t-shirt or a design on that t-shirt or tank top or hoodie or phone case. And the design you like, it's going to be made by an indie artist getting a fair commission for their work. And also, you're going to love it. So there's that.
That's going to be set. That's going to make life easy for you when it shows up at your doorstep.
You're going to feel relaxed and excited about the product you get at tpublic.com.
Yeah. And don't let the name fool you. You can get all kinds of apparel and with great designs. Like one that I am really vibing with this week is called King of the Monsters versus Dragonzord. And it is, that's what it sounds. It is Godzilla fighting the Dragonzord from Power Rangers. And it looks incredible. It's really cool. I hear the flute song in my head anytime I see the Dragonzord, so that's very fun for me. That's the design I'm really liking this week.
I like that we both chose Power Rangers. I think because of the Dragon Reborn and Dragonzord, it's subconsciously going into our brains.
Possibly.
Because I have the Green Ranger, and it's a funnier one. So it's the Green Ranger on his flute, but he's got a little stand in front of him, and he's practicing his music.
That's pretty good.
You gotta practice to call the Dragonzord.
Yeah, I guess. I love how his flute's also a knife. That's a bold move.
I like the duality of the flute knife.
The duality of man, flute knife.
I am an artist and a killer.
Complicated Green Ranger.
He is a complicated man.
He is very complicated. And you can find designs like that are made by independent artists who are getting commissions for their work. And you can find the ones that we just mentioned on our storefront, as well as ones we previously mentioned on the podcast. Also ones we've never mentioned and just maybe own ourselves or think are cool. And when you shop through our storefront, not only do you support the artist who designed it, you also directly support this show as well, even when you shop around at the full website and find something anywhere on the website that you enjoy. So all you have to do is go to tpublic.fromsuperheroes.com. That is teepublic.fromsuperheroes.com. And thank you very much, TeePublic, for your support.
Thank you, TeePublic.
And now back to the Wheel of Time.
All right. Earlier, I talked about how I don't know if this show is as good as my enjoyment of it. And I do think it's a good show. We've discussed that. I've backtracked on this slightly. But I will say one of the other reasons I thought maybe I liked it, even if it wasn't good, was because there are so many dogs in this show.
Love the dog wolves.
Wow, so many dogs, so many good boys.
Oh yeah. Just terrific boys.
Just well trained.
Terrific boys, great girls, nothing but good doggos.
Nothing but good doggos. None of them have gotten hurt yet. Show, you watch yourself.
Yes.
If you hurt a dog, I'm gonna lose it.
One horse harm, which we didn't care for.
Didn't care for that. No.
But the doggos are fine so far.
Doggos are fine so far. They better continue to be fine. Because, I feel like I've even, changed my perspective a little bit on, when you're, a kid or maybe even an adult, because we're cool, and, someone's like, what superpower would you have if you could have a power? And it's like flight or teleportation or super strength. And this show, I'm like, maybe I do want dogs to just like me the most.
Yeah.
That power might be my favorite everyday power. For dogs who just run out of a building and be like, we love this guy. That's my dream.
I know.
It's my genuine dream.
I know everyone on this show is having a tough time to some degree, but Perrin's life, if it weren't for dark ones who might come or whatever, seems pretty fucking dope.
Yeah, once they kill evil and he's just a guy who dogs like.
Yeah.
That's a great life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and has dog powers and also some side powers of past vision.
Yeah.
This dude has got some cool stuff.
Really nice level of power as well. Not overpowered, not Dragon Reborn shit. Just I can basically track the past.
Yeah, not a level of power where it's I'm probably going to kill everyone I've ever loved because I can't control it. And not a level of power where it's they'll hunt me to the end of the earth to get my secrets. Just stay just me and a dog in the woods having a pretty chill day. Made a fire.
And the dog can send visions into my head and tell me what he's thinking. I'm like, the dream. The absolute dream. I would love to know what my dog is thinking.
So fucking chill and good.
So good. So jealous of this man's powers.
Yeah.
And also just his shooting schedule. They're like, okay, Perrin, today you're going to just walk with this dog for 2 hours probably. And I'd be like, I'm getting paid for this.
Hell
This
yeah.
is incredible.
Hell yeah. Also, I will say the guy who plays Perrin, this dude is electric on screen as well. Like
Really pops.
I find him wildly charismatic. I am just incredibly drawn in with everything about like his performance, his embodiment, his speech pattern, his tonality. It's like every aspect of him. I'm like, tell me more. Like I'm really, really drawn in.
I really am, and it's so hard because he's been giving a way harder job this season, I'd say, because he's like the quieter one who's kind of hunched in on himself, and it's hard to be like charming and electric when you're not even like quiet in the way Lon is quiet of like I'm like contemplative and meditative. He's just kind of quiet and like I'm like I don't know what I want to say.
Yeah, a little awkward.
Yeah, a little awkward. And that's like easier to do in season 1 when he's with all of his friends. He gets to just be the awkward, quiet one. But this season he's separated from everyone. So he's got to be charming and electric and interesting and a main character when he's got like dogs to work with.
Yeah.
And if you're making me not look at a dog, you are nailing your performance.
You're
sir.
doing, and the other actor you're playing off of in most scenes is another dog man who doesn't say a lot because he's thinking in dog. So it's like
none of these are insults. This is the plot.
this is the plot, and it's like and he is trying to convey a level of like of complicated thoughtfulness, you know, whereas Lon, who's also doing a phenomenal performance, is playing this archetype of like of silent, brooding, smoldering, like a laser beam waiting to fire, a man who of focus and singularity, which is a classic quiet brooding type.
Yeah, he's a samurai type.
Yeah, whereas Perrin is trying to play like an awkward coming of age teen who doesn't know what he wants to do with his life, and it's just like there's too much shit going on. Who am I hanging out with today? And it's all of this, but
Who am I hanging out with today is a great description of Perrin. He has changed his group 4 times already this season.
Yeah, he is a university kid who's been through 4 different friend groups trying to find themselves.
What clique am I in?
What am I?
Am I a soldier? Am I a dog person? Am I a fighter with this lady?
He's tried a few different hats, but to sell that, I think with a relatively like low word count in your script is really good work.
Yeah,
really good work.
Yeah, really pops. Yeah, everyone is good.
Yeah, everyone. There are a couple of, and I wouldn't even be able to name them, but like there are 2 to 3 support characters whose like accent work has gone a little wonky.
Okay.
But that is about it, because like they are still playing that thing where it's like, hey, you know, it's fantasy, so everyone's a little bit British.
Yeah, every accent is viable when no land exists.
Yeah. Whereas at a few people aren't quite pulling off the accents that I think that they want to pull off as well.
That's fair.
Yeah. That, and I would say one other quick negative that I would say is the recent episode, this new character they introduced, the one who's caged up that Perrin releases. It felt very antiquated to be like, we've introduced this cool new character. Are you ready for a cool action scene? And the character would be like, I'm going to do cool action now. Let me just cover my face so you can't tell I've switched to a stunt person. It's like, nah, you need to cast someone who can do a couple of things and hide the stunts a little better. And even switching to a full stunt person, there was a lot of editing where I'm like, this doesn't really showcase the action very well. So for a show that I'm like, it feels like everything got a lot of time and attention, that was some fight choreography that didn't, where they were like, we actually haven't thought about how to hide this actor to a stunt person, so just for no reason at all, she puts on a balaclava before she starts a fight scene. For no reason. She's not a superhero. There's no hiding my identity. There's zero motivation, and we haven't figured it out. And then also during the fight scene, we still don't quite see a lot of the cool action.
Yeah, that scene was built up to be way cooler than it was. I actually don't think it was bad, but like when you have a show this expensive and there's actually not that much action, to be totally honest, like there's like a wisp of magic every now and then, like things happen, but like there's very little long action pieces this season, especially because like Lon's not fighting as much and he's usually the one who's like got the cool action set pieces.
Yeah.
This fight was a little disappointing. I will say plot-wise, I actually think I would have to check. I think her people do wear those masks when they fight. So she's the same race as, remember the pregnant lady who fought in season 1?
I absolutely don't.
Oh, it was a great fight scene. It was like she was pregnant and having the baby while she was like fighting all these guys off. And then Rand's dad takes the baby after she dies. So it was a great fight scene. So the girl they just introduced is the same like clan as her. And I think I remember her wearing that mask because they're from like the ice region. I think it's to help them breathe.
Oh, okay.
Or like to keep them warm or whatever. So I think maybe it's built in that it's okay, but I agree it also is like very helpful to hide an actress. And like it's a thing you maybe put in early to hide people later.
Yes.
If you're going to be like, this is the fighter race and we're going to hide their faces on purpose.
I see what you're, and also my memory is now starting to come back a little bit of that fight scene from season 1 that you're describing. But yeah, it just felt, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible, but it was built up a lot.
It
felt very mid. It felt very dated. It felt very 90s to be like, we just kind of, I don't know, the actress had to put a mask on because we didn't know how to switch to a stunt person. Fuck you, here's a scene. And it's just like, okay, it's fine, but it feels like we've grown beyond doing this kind of lazy stunt switch.
I can agree with that. And also, she did so many Hurricane Ranas. That was her only move. And like Black Widow does that a lot in the movies lately, but that's I used to watch wrestling, and that was the only time you used to see a Hurricane Rana. And now it's like all ladies get to do in movies when they fight now.
Yeah, and it's like that also has to be either the first or final move. You can't do 3 mid-fight Hurricane Ranas.
You would be wrecked. You'd be so tired.
So dizzy.
So dizzy, yeah, Jesus.
No sense of spatial awareness in any way. All of them end with you wrapped around a person on the ground, which is a great time for a new person to attack you.
Although, shout out to the guy who yelled out, "Everyone attack her at once."
Nothing but respect.
Nothing but respect. Like, how many times have you watched like a cheap Saturday morning like action show like Hercules or Beastmaster or whatever, and you're like, there's 18 guys and they all attacked him one at a time, and this guy is just like, everyone attack at once. She's real good.
Love it.
I absolutely adored that line. It felt like a real trope breaking, like, we're going to acknowledge we normally fight these kind of people one at a time.
Yeah.
And we should not.
Yeah. So respect for that dude.
Wild respect. Glad he got to live. I think he has more to bring to the table.
I think he has more to offer. Yeah. I only have a vague memory of what all of these people in the white robes do because they haven't really played a part in this season, even though they were a big part of last season.
They kill anyone with magic.
Oh, okay.
So they just like to kill magic
They're like
users.
a purify the earth type of, okay, cool. All right.
Only non-magic users. But also they look great because everyone looks great. We didn't talk about the costumes all that much. It's hard to talk about costumes at length, or at least I never know what to say about them. I'm like, they look good, but damn, everyone looks good.
Everyone looks good. Everyone, and they've really upped their game this year this season. Because last season, I remember there were some pieces there were some things that looked great, but also looked a little monotonous. And I think it was because last season there were more like, we're setting up shop in this town. Whereas, what's the name of the town they're all from?
Two Rivers.
Two Rivers. They're in Two Rivers, and it would we'd meet a character, and it'd be like, this is a great costume. And it would be like, add 20 to cart Amazon order, and everyone in the background had the same one with no individual personality. It didn't feel lived in. Whereas like this season, it's so much better. It was pretty good last season. It's so good. It looks so good.
Oh my God. Like all the Aes Sedai and their crazy like complicated outfits look incredible, but then also the peasants just look like lived in. Every background actor, a couple scenes I was just looking at the background because I'd be like, God, what a fun day. They're all wearing like fitted outfits in the background. Like they weren't just like throwing some clothes. Like it's so fun and so cool and so much work. Oh my God.
Yeah. All of Rand's costumes have been this really cool line in between there's something about me, but I'm trying to not draw attention to myself. Like they nail that level of his costumes.
I've actually noticed this through both seasons for Rand, and I think I complained about it last year that his look was way too modern for the kind of guy he is. He's like a shepherd, and his like look didn't like look lived in, and it looked like really modern. But now knowing that he's like the guy who can like modernize the world and also break the world and gets reborn all the time, I'm like, oh, I think this is purposeful, because I also think your costumes this season are slightly too modern, and now I'm thinking it's on purpose.
And I really like it because like he walks through a town and there's something about it where it's like you see it, and it's a look that says I don't belong here while also blending in.
Yeah.
So it's like only the camera draws enough attention to it that it seems weird, whereas in a broader scene it seems very, very normal.
Yeah, you can't pinpoint why he doesn't look like he fits in.
Yeah.
But when you see him, you're like, he doesn't quite fit in.
Quite fit in.
It's not quite right. It's not just because he's the only guy with a shaved head. There's something else happening.
And this evil army with their crazy face masks, that armor looks
man.
really cool.
And they're all different. They didn't just make like 18. I mean, like the soldiers all have that same one, but then like every like lieutenant in the army is slightly different. Like
They've got their own looks. Yeah.
Some of them have like the ball gag. Some of them have makeup halfway down. They've all got different weird face masky hat things going on, these weird nails, so many cool elaborate choices for these people, and so many hard to make costumes that are all slightly different.
Yes.
Wildly impressive.
Yeah. And also all of the wards as well, where it's like Lon and then the two other guys who are in the couple together. Like just like that feels right. Like they all have the same. It's a group of people that have a sense of individuality. Like each one of them look like their own person, but you can tell they all have the same job, which is such a fucking weird thing to say. But to be like, they are all unique, beautiful little characters who all have the same job. And you can see that from a mile away as well.
You don't have to wear a uniform, but you do have to wear something loose that you can fight in.
Yeah.
So therefore, we are going to be kind of similar in that way because we are all soldiers. And we're not armor soldiers. We're very fluid, like fighting soldiers. So none of us will have armor. So we all will have these kind of looser clothing. But it's not, but like you can wear whatever you want.
Yeah.
But it's got to be like loose Jedi-esque clothing.
Yeah. So it's beautiful. Yeah. They all look like they're kind of different eras of this same level of like thoughtful warrior.
Yeah. So much thought has been put into all the costumes.
All the costumes look absolutely amazing. I think my only other like negative for the season is that it's more respect for Lon. I'm like
one of my last
did him
notes,
too dirty.
One of my last notes is Lon needs a storyline because the only thing he's gotten to do this season is just get pushed away by Moraine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Lon rules. He got to do more in Nynaeve's dream world than he's gotten to do in real life.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Half of the scenes we've seen with Lon weren't real.
Yeah. So that's a tough one.
That's a tough one. And he is like, he can get it so hard.
Oh, he can get it.
He is such an attractive man. And like the character is wildly attractive. Like
and a phenomenal performer as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you. He is a prop of Moraine's story in that everything that he is doing is in response to that. And I know that he is her ward, but it's like last season he had a little bit of his own thing.
Yeah, he was her confidant. They were in it together. And this season she has pushed him away and he has not found anything to replace that with.
Yeah.
To the point where I was like genuinely really upset when the Nynaeve's dream world wasn't real. Just because I really did like the idea that he could go to the tower and become Nynaeve's warder because like they were together and like you're allowed to be a couple. You're allowed to be in a relationship with your warder. It doesn't break any rules. And I'm like, I love this for Lon. Moraine has cut him asunder, has not appreciated him. I was so happy for him. Like some characters have gotten back together, which is what I wanted. So like this seemed like it was all working out nicely. And then it's like, nah, it's a dream. I was like, fuck, dream. I've never been more disappointed something was a dream for weird reasons.
What an interesting flow of a sentence, but all right.
Like, how sometimes it's like, oh, it was all a dream, and you're like, oh no, her kid wasn't real. But right. I never care about the kid being real. Sure. But I wanted Lon to have a storyline.
That would have been nice. I would have liked him to have a real, based in the reality of this show story.
Yeah, not a fake one that she just like is sad about when she comes out and she's crying and she's like, Lon didn't have a storyline. My kid wasn't real.
I mean, that leads me to that reminds me to bring up new Matt.
Oh yeah.
How do you feel about new Matt?
I'm conflicted on new Matt. I actually think new Matt actor is doing a great job. I think he's really charming. I think he really does find Matt's fine line of I'm a coward and a trash man, but I'm not a betrayer.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to, I have no interest in harming anyone or betraying anyone, but I am a trash man is like a very fine line to walk as a character. And I think he finds it. I'm only conflicted because I think Old Matt was my favorite actor on the show. I really liked
Wow, okay.
in season 1. I thought his like humor was great. His relationships with Rand were really good. Those were the two that got like, they were separated together the most last season. And so I really miss Old Matt. Rumor says that on the internet is that he wouldn't get vaccinated, which is why he couldn't come back for season 2. So I'm all for new Matt for that regard.
Yeah.
Very pro-vaccinated in this house. So I think he's doing a great job. I won't lie and say I don't miss Old Matt, but this guy's very charming. When he does that whole the thing with the lock going in, when he plays the song of how the locks lock.
Oh, yeah,
Because
yeah.
he's been there for 5 months. He's
Yeah.
like, slide, lock, click, dunk.
It's cute.
He's
It's
very
cute.
good.
Now,
What do you think of New Matt?
I like new Matt more.
Oh, you like New Matt more?
I like new Matt more.
Old Matt was a little mumbly. New Matt, you can understand a lot
Well,
better.
here's my thing about how he is performing new Matt that I really enjoy is that another trope that is often not for Andrews, not bad, not anything. It's just not for Andrews is the like, what if we can fix him? That is not a romantic storyline that gets me. I am just someone who's just like, anytime there's a romantic storyline where it's like, what if I could be the one who fixes this person? I'm like, just walk away. That's not your job. You deserve love for who you are as a human being. Don't fix anyone. So that's just kind of my approach to any romance in fiction.
This is great. This means you thought I was perfect when you met me. Love this for me.
That's exactly what I said.
Love this for me. Nothing to fix here, you guys.
Everything's working out just fine.
That wasn't your most confident sentence I've ever heard.
Oh,
But continue your
You're
point.
high good.
High good.
You didn't need fixing. You did not need fixing.
I didn't need fixing, you
So-
guys. He said it without coercion.
So the can I fix them romantic trope is not something that does it for me. But this new performance of Matt is one where I'm like, it feels like something we could fix, and I'm actually kind of on board with it.
You want to fix
Where
this guy.
there are like the season 1 Matt, I was like, this dude actually can't be fixed. He's actually just kind of a trash man who's gonna make the bad decisions at every turn. And there's nothing you can do, and that's none of your responsibilities. This dude needs to figure himself out. And then like this version of Matt, I'm like, yeah, you're like a little cowardly, but not everybody needs to be the bravest fucking soldier in the world. Sometimes you can just be a dude who's like, I don't want to be in prison. And that's a fine level of cowardice. Or to be like, I'm also kind of broken as a person now, and I'm okay with being in prison. And that's also a fine level of human psychology. So like everything about this Matt and about how he plays it, I'm like, we could fix you. So I'm into it a little bit. He's found that delicate line a bit better for me.
Oh man, Andrew wants to fix Matt. That's very fun.
I don't know if
me.
I want to, but I'm saying like I could.
You're right.
We could.
You're right that his flaws are wildly relatable and understandable, though. He's absolutely the most flawed character in the show, probably. Like the one that you're supposed to be like trash man, trash.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's like, yeah, not everyone needs to want to be the Dragon Reborn and fight in a war. And he's not like hurting anyone. He doesn't wish harm upon his friends. He is just kind of like, maybe I should stay in prison because I did abandon them and that sucked. But he's also like, I don't want to be in prison though, so bye.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to face up to what I did to my friends. So I'm not going to go say hi when I see them in the hallway.
Yep.
But you're right. Yeah, he's fixable. And if not fixable, just like fun.
You can just accept him as he is.
Just fun to hang out with.
He is just a dude who shouldn't be wrapped up in this.
He's just a guy.
Yeah, it feels like the equivalent of like if the Avengers were walking down the street and we're just like, you're also part of it now. And you're like, I'm not equipped. I'm going to fuck up. Know that.
You're also part of this now. But you have no powers.
Yeah. Yeah.
He touched a knife once. Leave him alone.
Right? He had no powers and touched a knife once to not die. And now they're like, you sack of shit.
Prison for you.
Yeah, and they were like, we're going to the battle at the end of all time. And he was like, I'm leaving through a portal. And everyone's like, what a fucking coward. Why don't you ease up off Matt, everybody?
I love this for Matt.
Yeah.
Oh, the Matt Fixer squad or the Matt accept him as he is squad. Which one are we?
Yeah,
we don't even know. I'm not even sure.
Part of it.
But I love this for Matt. And yeah, I think he's enjoyable. So I'm not like scared for him. I think all last season I was like, he's gonna kill someone or he's gonna fuck up so bad. And this season they've actually even shown that he's gonna stab Rand, and I'm like, Rand's probably gonna deserve it, or it's gonna be like a really good moment for Matt,
or it'll be fine, or Rand will need to be stabbed,
or it'll be like an illusion, or someone who looks like Rand and it wasn't Rand, or something.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, that's the Wheel of Time. Let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this if you could change anything? Before we do ask the final question, we will remind you, as we do every week, please take a moment, rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, wherever you might get your podcasts. It helps us move up the charts. It helps us find new listeners. It's a free way to support this podcast, and it warms our hearts, in our hearts and on the charts. That's what we always say.
That's what we always say. We've said it every single episode. You can go back weeks.
Check it.
And check it. Yeah, we love the reviews. They're in our hearts. They're on the charts. And yeah, it just helps people know that we're good, we're current, we're hip, we're happening. It helps us move up, and we all succeed. And then you get to be like, I did that.
We did that. You did that. We did that. It's been done. And as well, if you do want to support the podcast monetarily, that is something that you can do over on Patreon. Patreon is a monthly subscription service where you can subscribe at whatever is in your budget, and you'll get cool bonuses for doing so. Even at the $1 a month level, you get our webcomic a day early. At the $3 a month level, you get this podcast early and ad free. As well, at the $10 a month level, the hero level Patreon, you get an exclusive episode of this podcast every single month.
Every single month. This month we did Tron because we were on a movies about playing video games kick. Also earlier, I guess we did Gran Turismo with Rand from this show. That was on the regular pod. So yeah, it's the $10 level. You get episodes that are not on the regular podcast. They're ad free. They're movies we never cover on the regular. It's just a fun time.
It's a fun time over there on Patreon. Have a look if it is in your budget. Even if it's not in your budget, have a look and then don't spend that money because you don't have the budget. But if you do have the budget or things change, sign on up. You can check it all out over at patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That is patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And now let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? Diana, what would you change?
My change is not very surprising. We actually already talked about it, so it's a bit of an anticlimax. These characters need to get back together. I need a little separation is fine, but we're 5 episodes in and they're more separated than ever, and I really need like the original, I think it was 6 main characters, 5 from the 2 rivers and then Lon and Moraine, so I guess that's 7. Characters need to like get the team back together. We're way too separated. I think an easy way would, on the road when Matt left, he probably should have ran into either Perrin or Rand by now. If we just want to get a couple of these guys back together, Perrin also could have ran into Rand, could have run into anybody by now. They've been separated for such a long time, and like it has gotten to the point where we're adding too many characters too fast. Like it's like Nynaeve and Elaine just met 2 new people. Egwene just got captured by a bunch of new people. I thought Perrin was going to be with the dog guy for like this whole show, and now he's with this girl. And I'm like, this episode introduced like 8 people.
Yeah.
Which was way too much at once. And we could just meet somebody we know. That would be great. If some people could just run into each other, I would love that. So really, it's my biggest complaint. Yeah, don't separate characters. Bring them all together. Other than that, the show's rules. More dogs, I guess. Because why not? Who's going to complain? Who could stop me?
Not me.
The makers of Wheel of Time. But other than that.
In this hypothetical scenario, that's you, though. So you're fine.
Yeah,
you can't be stopped.
I'm like, the dogs are like messengers with messages from Perrin. They're going all over the world. Every character gets a dog. I think I might just be Game of Thronesing now with the Stark wolves.
Your like reverse populist Game of Thronesing, where it's mostly direwolves.
Mostly direwolves.
And a couple of Starks.
Yeah. The wolves are not endangered. They're everywhere.
Yeah, the wolves are given a Stark to be their representation. Scenario.
Some wolves have to share.
Mm-hmm,
3 wolves per Stark.
I like this.
So this is my change. Characters get it back together.
I like this. I'm fully on board with all of this. I love it. As I mentioned earlier, I don't like the get separated trope. I agree. We've added a bunch of new characters, and I love the idea of them being together and having chemistry, which all of these actors had in season 1 as well.
They did.
They have fun chemistry together, and I want to see that again. So I love it.
Thank you. Andrew, what would you change?
My big change is streamlining the villain scenario and giving the villain a purpose. Because other than the prophecy that a fight will happen someday, somewhere for a particular reason that is yet undecided, other than that, no one on the villain side is working towards a known thing. Where like we have stuff like the fallen one, the Forsaken one,
the dark one,
the Forsaken one, the dark one, who's like, I've got someone who's got an army, who's kind of like a thing, and then there's also a king, and maybe I want army stuff. And then it's like, okay, and it's like, and also we captured a couple of the young Aes Sedai novices. Is that a thing we wanted? We've never brought it up before this moment, and now we kind of care about it. So what I want is I really just want this season to start with him just being like, I'm free now, and I am preparing the world for the release of my one boss. It is me doing an exact thing to free my one boss, which is the Dark One. And to free my one boss, I need to do A, B, and C. We could have it as simple as like him being like, to free my boss, I need to get an army and I need to capture the most powerful Aes Sedai. And those are the two things that I have to do for the goal of releasing the ultimate Dark One, as opposed to just wandering around and doing general stuff. So that's my big change, is that just like simple, streamline. We don't need he knows a lady with some fingernails who has an army, but it's not totally her army. Just like, I have two things to do, and it's for my boss.
Let me see the villain's to-do list.
Yes.
Let me see like the breakdown.
Yeah.
He's in his office. He's got check boxes and a little clipboard.
I just want to know what I'm afraid of, and that's my biggest change.
Love that.
Yeah.
Of course I love that change.
It's a little vaguer than some of my previous changes, but it's what I want.
No, it's a structurally sound change, and I think it would make the show much better and much more like, what are we trying to stop?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if we're succeeding at anything, because I don't know what we're trying to stop.
It's just a bunch of people doing stuff.
They're doing stuff.
Well, I think we made it better.
I think we did.
The team gets together, and they're trying to stop a bad person from doing a known thing.
It sounds like a bad show when we say it like that.
I was actually going to say that sounds like the most simple step one necessity of a plot device of a show. But this show is
making it work.
As we mentioned, the show is better than the sum of its parts somehow. They skipped step one of plot design, and it still turned out pretty good. Step 1, ?
Step 2, characters all rule. Step 3, we like all the actors.
Yeah.
Step 4, ?
Again. Well, that's going to be it for this week. That's going to be it for the Wheel of Time. Next week on the podcast, we are going to be back, and we're going to be talking about The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. We said we wouldn't cover Walking Dead again, but they got us
But this isn't The Walking Dead. This is The
Dead.
Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, which is a legally different show for reasons.
Different show. We haven't watched it yet. We know he's in Paris, and why we'll find out later.
Derry and Paris, we are going to get into it.
Matt, it's not called that.
Next week on the podcast. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can find me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, at Ivimey, Ivimey.
You can find me on Tumblr at Words of Diana.
And you can find both of us most places at From Superheroes, or you can visit FromSuperheroes.com to check out all of our podcasts and our other properties. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.